Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Game be damned, Jim. Here we are again. We just don't care. We're going to keep going with it, even as Bob Walk and Greg Brown are introing what's going to happen on the field today in Wrigley.
Yeah, man, we're going head-to-head with the Pirates here. But, Gary, maybe it'll be better luck because every time I go to a Pirate game, they don't win. So I think I'm like 1-7 this year at home. So, I'll stay away from the TV right now, too, and see how it goes.
All righty. And Ryan Lytle is joining us from Pioneer Park, home of the Greenville Flyboys and their manager, Jack Flash Wilson. I love it. It's always kid is tearing the league apart. So, man, holy hell.
Yeah, I saw he's like second in hits in all of at least the AL. So
yeah, it's insane what he's doing, for real. So let's start out with something great, man. Andrew McCutchen hits that 241st home run to pass Roberto Clemente for sole possession of third all-time for Pittsburgh Pirates home runs. What do you think, man? Where does your head go? Does it go to like what could have been if he wasn't traded, or does it go to, oh my God, that's incredible. That's as high as he's ever going to go. He's never going to pass Konnor or Willie in those categories. He'd have to play way too long.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it goes a lot of different directions. I think, like, first of all, anytime you can pass Roberto Clemente in any type of statistical category is pretty damn special.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, you wonder what would have been if he hadn't been traded away and how many would he have hit in that span. I think you can comfortably add, I mean, he would be over 300, I'm sure, in a Pirates uniform, which would be pretty darn special. But yeah, I think too, like the other thing I would add is that it's funny that the Pirates don't have anybody higher on that list too. Like it kind of surprises me that there's kind of Pops and then everybody else. Not a lot of big names or big guys up there, despite how long and storied their history has been.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think about it, really, beyond the 70s, everybody kind of just wasn't there all that long. Like, they certainly didn't stick around. I mean, like, Parker got dealt eventually, and that's probably the guy who would have threatened the top of that list, right? So, like...
Yeah, and it would have only taken Bond another 3 or 4 years to easily be 300-ish. Right. So, but yeah, no, just flat out great accomplishment. I know there's some weird comments out there about, he's not better than Clemente. Well, of course not. Who was?
Right. Like, I think I equally hate that. Well, I hate that almost as much as I hate the people that have to be like, not a Hall of Famer, but okay, like we're just talking about something that he just did. Sometimes I just want to state a fact and just have the fact live on its own. I don't need to tell the entire life story of something. Like, that's all I'm trying to say is he just passed Roberto Clemente. Can we not kind of celebrate that? That's a pretty big deal. Anytime you pass him on anything, congratulations.
Definitely. And, to a certain generation of Pirate fans, we're a little older, so I think we have a little bit different perspective, but he's still in the top 2 or 3 of guys that have been iconic for this franchise for us. So, he deserves his flowers. Okay, maybe he's not Cooperstown bound, but he's going to be very, very, very good and very close to it, and that's okay too. Still means you're a hell of a baseball player.
That said, man, like, we talk about like the reverence that we hold Roberto Clemente in, and rightly so. But listen to some of the names that he's probably going to pass this season on the all-time, and this is just baseball, all-time baseball hits list. Listen to these names, man. Willie McCovey. Like, that's coming up quick. Joe DiMaggio. Willie Stargell. Mike Schmidt. I mean, these are guys that he's probably going to pass this year. You know, and I mean, like, and that I'm just talking like stay healthy, not even stay hot.
Do me a favor, repeat the first couple names because you cut out, so I want to hear those ones again.
Willie McCovey, Joe DiMaggio.
Okay, that's the one I didn't hear. Joey D. Yeah, I mean, anytime you get into this like category of like where you're at on the all-time hits list or home runs list, start looking around those names, and you're still getting in some pretty rarefied air.
He just got a base hit right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So good stuff, man. I mean, like, I think like the way he's playing right now, Jim, he's certainly not playing like he's this team's mascot or something. He's playing like he could go another year for sure. Like, I went into this season thinking like maybe he'll get through it. Now I'm like, I see no reason why he shouldn't come back in 2026 if he's playing like this.
I think he will. Why wouldn't you? He seems like he's still enjoying himself. He's climbing up certain lists. There's plenty more for him to accomplish. And, you know, I think he still has a love for the game. So I think you will see him back next year.
I mean, it certainly feels like it's going in that direction. And man, when he first came back in 2023, I don't think you could have possibly made me believe that I would both think he's coming back in 26 and think it's a good idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, just this year, you know, he still has some pop. I think his OPS is right around 760, 770. I don't know where that ranks on the team, but it's got to be pretty high. Sure, it does limit you a little bit on what you can do with some DH and whatnot, but he's still one of their most productive hitters.
In a way, isn't that kind of scary? I mean, right now,
Yeah.
If you think about their offense, Jim, that we don't think is enough, it's being, I mean, I think IKF has been great, like average-wise, right? Adam Frazier has been hitting like all-star Adam Frazier. For real. Like, look back to that all-star year. This is exactly what he did. Just pepper the ball all over the ballpark, no matter what we said about him before he came here.
It's actually been shocking that he has played as well as he has. Certainly, I mean, of late. And situationally, he always seems to do the right thing.
And you throw Kutch into that mix, and here I'm thinking about this offense that we already don't think is enough. At the trade deadline, very likely two of those guys are being traded. And one of them we didn't think was going to ever possibly come back for another year, and he's probably going to come back for another year and be another year older. You know, that's not exactly as close as I think we'd hope. You know, like, I worry a little bit about Don Kelly getting this thing on the right track, which I think he has. And then they're going to pull the rug out from under him a little bit, I think. Don't you?
You mean with what they're going to probably move?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to.
Yeah. And we'll get to this too. We have some, at least a poll question in regards to some of that.
Sure.
But yeah, offensively, it puts you in a weird position because you can't really hit well. And do you really want to move anybody from that side of the ball? But at the same time, if you can get something for certain guys because they're playing well and maybe you didn't even think you'd be in that spot with them, don't you kind of still have to do it? By the way, Kutch 765 OPS second on the team. Only O'Neal Cruz at 816 is better.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's what I mean. He's not playing like somebody that you could pretend you're going to get better after he's moved on. You know what I mean? I see a lot of people like, I wish he'd just retire. Remember at the beginning of the season, a lot of people were doing that. I don't know why we're wishing that. Like, he's playing
if they had
great.
if they had a bunch of dudes beating down the door and double and triple A, I'd be like, yeah, probably time to go. Time to wrap that up. They don't have that.
Let's take a quick break and come back. Let's do Call Your Shot, because I already see some questions in the chat about Konnor Griffin, and I know that's what this is going to propel us into.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Yeah, so Martin already tossed in here, you know, speaking of great ball players, I just saw the best Pirates hitting prospect that I've ever seen last night in Konnor Griffin. So I thought Call Your Shot is going to kind of lead us into talking about Konnor Griffin a little bit, Jim. So we might as well just combine these two things, right?
It's a good topic.
The listeners want to hear about Konnor Griffin, and hey, you know, Call Your Shot wants to hear about it too. So let's do it.
Gary, Jim, what's up, boys? Thanks for having me back for another week of Call Your Shot. I'm Taylor here at shopyins.com. If you believe black and gold, we got the stuff for you. Check out our website. We've got some new Buccos stuff out there, new Steelers stuff as well, and Pens gear dropping soon. Don't forget the Pirates Fans Forum collection. Rock your favorite podcast, tee, hat, whatever you need. We got some stuff on there for you. Let's get down to some business here, boys. The Buccos, they're heating up, and your questions were fire too this week, so thanks so much. But this week's winner is going to go to Tyler Hernley. His question is, he hasn't obviously been in Greensboro long, but with Konnor Griffin picking up exactly where he left off in Bradenton, is it reasonable to think that he has a shot at getting to Altoona, even just for a cup of coffee this year? Great question, Tyler. I love it. A lot to be excited about with this guy. Hopefully he gets up here sooner versus later. We could use the bat, and it's 6'4", 225 already at 19. Dude's a beast. But yeah, let's get it, guys. Gary, Jim, let's hear your take on it. And one more quick thing for you. Anyone listening, special promo code is going out this week, FanForum10, for $10 off your order. Find some yin stuff online. We got some new stuff out there, like I said. And let's rock some black and gold. Let's beat the Cubbies' ass tonight. And let's go Bucks.
Changing the game, spitting that flame. His name is I got that Pittsburgh sound, and I'ma always hold Pittsburgh down.
I love it. That's a great question, Jim. And wow, Pirates Fan Forum 10. There you go.
Yeah,
I like that.
My wife's going to see this, and we're going to be buying some things. That's all I know.
I just bought that Paul Skeen shirt that we were drolling about last week.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Wish
I kind of like the Dawn too.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool to me too. I think I'm gonna have to pull the trigger on another one. Good stuff. Let's do the poll question.
All right.
Or not the poll question, the Call Your Shot. Konnor Griffin, can he make it to Altoona? First, I mean, did you expect him to make it to Greensboro already? I mean, it's June 12th, bro. You know, he's been up there for a couple days already. We thought he might move fast. I think we questioned how fast the Pirates would let him move, but I bet there's an awful lot of incentive in that building to see what they can do about having him overlap with Paul Skeens, if at all possible.
You know, I think we're both trained because of this game to want to pump the brakes on everything, right? Because we know how hard this game is, and the patience that it takes sometimes. But man, the sky is the limit for Konnor Griffin. And if he just refuses to stop growing at such a astronomical pace like he's doing, I think you let it go, man. You just let it go and see what he can handle. And if there's a little bit, you can always take your foot off the gas a little bit here and there right now. I would ride it, man. I really would.
So let's see. Martin was actually talking to Kevin yesterday. So Kevin is Connor's dad, for those of you that maybe didn't see them together here on the show. Kevin told me
that didn't watch the show and need to go watch him back. Go back and watch it when Konnor and his dad were on.
When Kevin told me that they have Konnor, he's only going to play shortstop, at least for now. And that makes total sense because, I mean, that's the position that he hasn't played until, he got drafted. Center field, I think he's more than proven he can go out there and kind of play all-star defense if they really want to just let him go. And those, Kevin smiled when you told him that you saw him on the show earlier. Good. I'm glad. Nice. Kevin's a good dude. Yeah, man, I think there's a chance that he can make it to Altoona for sure. I do want to just caution people that Greensboro has a tendency to inflate numbers a little bit. I don't think that's what we're going to see with Konnor Griffin, though. I think what we're going to maybe see is potentially a couple more home runs and maybe a few less triples. It's a ballpark that probably doesn't have the outfield space for him to run like a gazelle as much as put the power on display.
The beauty of Konnor Griffin's game is that it plays in any ballpark, what he does, right? Like, okay, the ball is going to fly a little bit. He gets some power out of that. Fantastic. Doesn't have to be a big part of his game just yet. He can still impact the game in so many other ways. And I think you're seeing that with the steal numbers, the arm, the defense, like that plays anywhere. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Gary, what if he just hits the ground running here too? I thought it'd have been a ridiculous thing to suggest at the beginning of the year that we could be talking about him in AA by the end of the year. I don't think it's so ridiculous now.
I don't think it's ridiculous either. And I also think this team really does see AA as a stepping stone. I don't think they necessarily care if you make it to AAA before you make it to the majors if they think you're ready. I don't want to force expectations on this kid to do things that there's part of me that doesn't trust prospects until I've seen them struggle a little bit. And I haven't seen him struggle yet. Not really. I saw him probably not have an average that made him all that happy at the very beginning in Bradenton, but that was quickly assuaged, before you even had a chance to get down in that, oh my God, how do I fix this? I've never had to worry about this before stage. And I feel like you almost need to see that at some point. You get to that point too, where, much like Termar Johnson, you're going to get to the point where he's facing guys that have pitched professionally for sometimes 3, 4, 5 years, even at this level. I think there's going to be some challenges that come to him. So before we go off half-cocked pretending like we can map out his future and have him here for before the All-Star break next year.
Yeah. Well, you go ahead.
A little bit. That's all I'm saying. Let's just see.
Yeah, I mean, you go back through the history of this game and see how many guys are playing in the majors at 19.
You're talking about Juan Soto, Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper. That's the type, right?
Yeah. So, I relax on that, but I do think that and he needs challenged, right? Like if he's not being challenged, and it doesn't sound like, I mean, it sounds like he was handling everything really well and not being all that super challenged. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, the only thing I ever really heard was, and I heard a couple weeks ago that they were close, but they really wanted to see him do a little bit better against breaking pitches, you know. And then he had about 2 games where he just tore every breaking pitch he saw apart. So, like, I think they were just like, okay. If anything, though, I think what I've seen is they're gonna trust that when the boxes are checked, they could move him up if they feel like it. I don't think they have any kind of arbitrary date for it. You know, I don't think there's any kind of break. And I think the league in general is starting to go a little bit more towards, hey, when you're drafting that first round talent, if it's truly a first round talent, it should get halfway through your system pretty freaking easy. Right? And I think they're allowing that to happen a little bit more because teams are getting tired of having their options taken away from them by taking 3 or 4 years to get guys to AAA, you know, because they've arbitrarily gone a year at a time. I think that's changing a little bit in the game, don't you? It feels like it. It's not just the Angels anymore, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've seen hitters and pitchers being called up within a year of them being drafted.
Sure.
Now, granted, these are usually collegiate guys that are a little bit more on the man side of things and ready to go. So that's the difference with Konnor. But he certainly doesn't play like a kid anymore. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing to see how the Pirates will handle him versus guys that maybe are a little more older and seasoned that are getting those fast tracks. So
I mean, yeah, speaking of a little older and seasoned, I mean, they called up, they promoted another player along with Konnor, Will Taylor. And Will Taylor was in the same draft class. So, like, he's 22 years old, 5th rounder. And they just let him move. He blew it up, too. I mean, 4 homers, 8 stolen bases, 333, on base of 424, and an OPS of 993. In some ways, his numbers are even more impressive than Konnor. And at 22, you should be able to move up to Greensboro pretty easily, right? And so it makes sense to do that.
Yeah, he's somebody that I have not paid a ton of attention to, so I was a little surprised just to read what he had been doing. But yeah, you would think with him, this would be a situation where, great, he should be doing this, move him quickly. Let's see what he does at the next step.
I agree, because you at least got to get him with his age group, and I think you probably have to get up to Altoona if you're going to do that. So we'll see. I'd imagine he'll probably do pretty well in Greensboro. There's a couple other 19-year-olds that I think are probably not long for Bradenton because they have to start making room for the DSL guys to come up after the short season ends. Axial Plaz, he's been around for a really long time. It's an international pick. Catcher. Real good chance to move up soon. He's 19 as well. And Wyatt Sanford, 19. 2nd rounder last year. Shortstop. Probably another reason why they wanted to move Konnor up, because they want both of them to play shortstop, at least for a little bit. Wyatt's a little bit smaller, more of your traditional shortstop-looking player. But, man, he's crushing baseballs. Crushing baseballs.
Well, look, the timing isn't great because they don't have a lot of stuff close, but it's at least reassuring that you're finally pinpointing some names that at least look like there's some offensive talent in the system. You know, it might be a little further away than you want it to be, but at least you can point to names and say, okay, well, they're at least got guys in the pipeline.
Sure. And I think they're making a concerted effort to kind of move them a little closer. You know, I think they realize that some of this talent's got to get here within the next year or two if it's going to have any effect on what happens with Paul Skeens.
Yeah, because I think every passing day that goes by, you worry a little bit more and more about just how long you will have Paul. Unfortunately, sad to say, but
I don't. I know exactly how long they'll have him if they don't extend him, and you do too.
well, you know what I'm saying though, as far as that.
My point is, if I can look at it and go, okay, I have a safe zone if I know I can get to this year, 2030, 2029, 2030. If I can do anything to help Konnor Griffin get here by 2027, I'm going to do it. And that's what I'm thinking that they're trying to do with some of these younger bats. And I would imagine that this draft, you'll probably see a little bit of an emphasis maybe on college bats after the first round, because I don't know how you could possibly arrange it in the first round so they don't get a pitcher. It just looks like that's the way it's going to fall. And it's going to be such a drop to best player available. If you don't go pitcher, you'd be stupid.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you'd love to be sitting in a position where you took a college bat that looked like you could be talking about one of those guys you would be calling up within, 12 to 18 months. But it's just not likely to work out.
Right. So I feel like they're going to get stuck in pitcher. Anyway, we're going to talk about a power outage at PNC Park, Jim. I don't know if you read the article that Kevin Gorman put together, talking about all of the different guys that are basically, I don't know a nice way to put it. It feels like they're complaining about PNC Park, basically being hard to hit in. And it's nothing that we didn't know. I felt like Andrew McCutchen kind of took it to a complaining about the actual ball. Feels like the ball itself is different this year. And he knows what a ball should do when he hits it a certain way. And I would imagine after playing as long as he has, that's true. He probably does know what happens with a ball when he hits it, and he's basically saying, I know I've had 3 or 4 home runs taken from me here. Brian Reynolds said he's had 5 taken from him. What do you think of this whole conversation? Is this come across as whiny, or is this something that maybe affects why free agent hitters beyond money wouldn't want to come here?
I'm going back through the article now because it's funny when you read an article and you take away things from it. And I'm going back through to see if it was just Kutch that really focused on the ball, or did anyone else make that connection? Here's the thing, Gary. Isn't everybody playing with the same baseballs?
Yeah.
It's
not hurting Cal Raleigh or Aaron Judge.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
Yeah. Now everyone can go, well, Aaron Judge plays in a shoebox. Yes, he does. So clearly, Yankee Stadium, you're gonna have some better.
I don't think that he's hit many home runs that wouldn't have cleared the force field of left field here at PNC Park.
Yeah,
most of his home runs are pretty no doubter. You know what I mean? He might get a squeaker down the right field line every once in a while at Yankee Stadium, but for the most part, he's hitting pretty true home runs. I'm just saying, I think it's a little bit weird. In another way, you would think it would have more of an effect than it does. I hear them say this about, the way it is to hit at home and everything, and the record doesn't reflect what they're saying. They're 19-19 at home. They have a 500 record at home. They're doing poorly on the road. They're hitting splits. Home, they are hitting 240. Away, they are hitting 216. So that doesn't really back up what they're saying about the ballpark, right? Let's see. At home, they have hit 24 home runs. Away, they've hit 25. I don't think it backs up their narrative, really.
Yeah, sometimes I think you can convince yourselves, and players do this with things, right? Not just with home runs or
Sure.
in other sports. You talk about like certain things and they really do believe that, but then you take a look at numbers and you're like, I don't know about that. Maybe, look, maybe it's just really hard to hit a home run in PNC Park if you hit it in the wrong spot.
That's true. And I think I could make a case for pulling the fence in. In fact, I did before this season. So like it's not like this completely comes out of left field. No pun intended.
Haha, Gary, you're so clever.
But for real, I could make an excuse to just take the notch out. Just even up left field there, and I think you'd have a more fair hitter's ballpark. You could still go 400 out there in left center, but it's not 410. Like that's a little bit Forbes Field-ish. You don't need to do that, right? And I look at the pitching stats though, Jim, and I'm thinking to myself, well, they must be way better at home, even for this pitching staff. And the record would make me feel that way. 3.71 ERA at home, 3.90 on the road. It ain't that much different.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that the narrative that got painted in that article by the players, I'm not saying Kevin did. Please don't take it that way. The players seem to really buy into that. Like there is something wrong with the Major League Baseball, is what they're saying.
Well, Kutch certainly is.
Yes.
But first of all, every year we hear this: pitchers complain about the baseball, hitters complain about the baseball, we complain about the baseball in some way, shape, or form. I'll have to look and see what the numbers are across baseball. Are runs down? Are home runs down? I haven't seen anything.
I haven't heard anybody say that.
Right.
So I don't know. But
normally at this point we would be seeing that stuff, right? Like, oh, home runs are down, and
yeah,
I've
seen what Kutch is talking about though. Like, I'm not saying that I've been watching baseball long enough to know what's a home run from a TV swing, but when I'm in the ballpark and I hear a baseball hit the way that it can be hit, and that sound, and that trajectory, and then I do feel I'm seeing more of them die on the warning track, and I mean from opponents too. So I have no doubt that they've messed with the ball in some way, shape, or form.
I think they've really always kind of messed with the ball year to year.
I don't know why though, because like, what would be the incentive for Major League Baseball to deaden the ball? And here's why I say that. Every rule change that they have tried to make has been about making offense more in your face, like the pitch clock, the limiting number of times that you can throw over to first base or any base. I think to get more base stealing going on and things like that. So I guess what I'm saying is, why would you deaden the ball then?
It's the first thing I thought of in the article, which was, and Josh is saying some really interesting things here, but hold on a sec, Josh. Baseball wants more offense. The game is more exciting, and they're trying to inject more action into the game. So that's the first thing I thought of, which is, I really don't think they're trying to deaden the baseballs. Do I think that maybe there's been some manufacturing things with unintended consequences? Maybe.
So Josh says the drag on this year's version of the baseball is the most it's been since StatCast. The ball is dying sooner than every other season. Okay. I buy it. I question why. It just seems to be counter to what Rob Manfred has wanted to do with the team, with the league. Unless it's an all-out war on the three true outcomes, and one of the true outcomes is a home run. So you want more balls in play. You want more balls into the gaps. You want more singles, and you want that kind of baseball versus the home run. Now
I can't see baseball turning its back on the home run. It's always been a thing. It's always been a pull for the game. I don't necessarily care about home runs all that much, but I know the average fan does. We watch games. Every ball that's hit in the air, people lose their damn minds that it might be a home run. I can't see baseball turning its back on that.
I can't either. And it feels like all of the people that they try to promote the most are the ones that hit the home runs. The Shohei Ohtani, the Aaron Judge, even the StatCast gods like O'Neal Cruz and Ellie De La Cruz and, that type.
They're not looking to neuter Shohei and Aaron Judge. And I just don't buy that. Maybe they made a change.
Blame Canada smoke, says Eric. I love they have these forest fires going on up there. So
they must be directly blowing into Pittsburgh only when the Pirates bat.
They might burn the whole country down if Edmonton loses this final. The cats are taking over. So yeah. I don't know, man. It's an interesting discussion. What do you think about changing PNC Park? Are you open to that in any way? I mean, I think it could be rather subtle. I think you just kind of connect that straight line out there in left field to eliminate the notch. And I don't care if you put some kind of weird fake nutting dunk tank out there that you can hit a target in that little, what used to be the gap, and then he falls out of the owner's box into a tank of water. I don't care.
I like it. I think it's unique. I think it's something to PNC Park. I would suggest that the pitchers like it too. You know what I mean? The Pirates pitchers. So helping keep the ball in the yard a little bit. I think that plays to their strength more right now. That's the way the team's constructed. Would I be upset if they changed it? No, and it'd probably be forgotten about very quickly. But I would keep it, Gary. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think I'd be okay getting rid of the notch, if only because I do think it's a little bit ridiculously deep out there. And I think you're talking about somebody that's probably got 50 grade power that you should expect to be regularly hitting home runs to left field as a right-handed hitter here at PNC Park. And I guess that's fair because everybody has to face it. But you're inevitably going to wind up having a really good hitter who's a right-handed player, like Andrew McCutchen or Konnor Griffin. And you're not going to want to make it super, super impossible for him to hit home runs or to train him that he has to hit everything to right center. And then it better be the right height too, because if it's a little too far to the right, you're screwed. PNC is a place where you're almost better hitting it dead center than to right field unless you get it real high in the air.
Well, you saying this, it brings up an interesting point, though, that it had the opposite effect on IKF from that article, which is he went back to the drawing board and maybe is getting better results from it because he basically said he just quit trying to hit for power and essentially has changed his game to work with the field and hit the ball up the middle and away, and basically has forgotten about it. I would say that it's really worked for him. So
and for his troubles, he'll be rewarded with probably getting paid less than he's making this year by a league that doesn't appreciate what he does.
Well, that's always the thing with baseball is though, right? Yeah, like we know what's valued.
Well, I kind of go back to that. Like if you're talking about trying to lure free agents here, convince people to extend here, even when you do develop them, do you owe it to them at all to make the ballpark play a little bit more fair in every aspect? I don't think it would kill the pitchers to lose that 5 feet out there, is what I'm saying. Just based on the data that I showed from the splits or talked about from the splits, it's not like they're doing tragically on the road and being at home is saving them.
Yeah.
That said, hitting worse at home isn't hurting them either. They're 19-19 at home. It's working. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah. The other takeaway I took from the article which was just kind of how unlucky Brian Reynolds has been this year. He had some pretty stark contrast between how he's, hitting on paper and what the numbers should look like. And I know people get awfully cranky when you talk about expected this and expected that, but clearly the players pay attention to it. They do. Because it
You're
shows you
welcome for the Yinzer accent, Steve. We're trying.
we come by it honestly.
Yep.
But he really has been, not that he's hit well enough anyway, but he has been very unlucky this year.
And IKF has been very lucky. So the funny part about that article was he spent a lot of time talking about not getting lucky, and he's been getting very lucky. So I think there's just maybe some I'm sure he didn't go around collecting these quotes at different times or something, So maybe the team in general was all feeling like real snake bitten when he approached them, and they decided to really just go after the ballpark or whatever. But I don't know, man. If I made any change, it would be pretty insignificant. It would just be the notch, and then Jim Rosati would have to change his name on Twitter.
Yeah, he would have to go with. We'll come up with something. Yeah, but the name change would be definitely in play. Going back to one more thing, and then we can move on. We've got a couple other things to get to.
Yeah.
You did mention in the article about Kutch saying about, look, I've been around this game for 30 years. I know when a baseball sounds different. I know.
When he got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do lend some credence to that. I think like if you hand a player a bat and it's supposed to be their bat, they can tell you if it's weighing what they want it to weigh. Like they know this stuff. Like they handle this stuff constantly, and they know the sound, and they know the feel, and they know the weight, and they know the size of, how high the laces or how high the threads are on a baseball. They know sounds. So there is something to that.
Just like Andrew Heaney can lace a shoe in about 2.3 seconds.
Right. Baseball players are weirdos, man. But no, so that part did catch my attention. I don't think Kutch is just sitting there, thinking he's making it up, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's something to it anyway, and it is something that I think they should entertain. Of course, it would probably cost money. So what are we even talking about? Let's take another break,
or just get better hitters. Maybe that too.
Well, you could do that. Let's take another break. And when we come back, I think we both have pretty cool poll questions out there. We got to talk about both of them.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Hey, make sure you subscribe and hit us with a like and drop a comment here. We'll answer them. We will. One of us will pay attention, right, Jim?
Probably.
So your poll question here was, if you could only choose one, which Pirates starting pitcher are you trading at the deadline, and why did you choose that particular one? So I'll read the results, and you can tell me your favorite replies to that. First, you gave everybody an easy out of Andrew Heaney, and everyone, for the most part, took that out at 60.8%. Mitch Keller, 28.7%, and Bailey Falter, 10.6%. So if I know you, you have an underlying reason why you chose these three. Would you like to explain that before you read some of your replies, or you just want to leave it ambiguous for a minute?
Let's leave it ambiguous, because I want to see if people can follow my logic and my reasoning with this. Let's go with Jeff. his comment was, Keller, assuming they can get a good return for him, which Sherrington has never shown he's been capable of. Okay. We got the Sherrington comment out of the way.
I'm sure
and,
it's the only one.
Oh, totally. Let's see. Brian Now, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Brian. Sorry if that's wrong. Heaney is the
something.
Yeah. Heaney is the only one at the deadline. If they are going to move Keller or Falter, I believe you would get more value over the winter. So I thought that was a good comment to say, like, you know, do you want to wait on one of those guys if you can? I think it all just comes down to what the market looks like, right? I mean, you never know at the deadline how that moves. And let me go with one more. Brad says, Keller, as long as the savings is reallocated to a Cruz extension or an impact free agent bat this offseason.
Okay.
So someone brought in, you know, what are you planning on doing with that money? What does that part of it look like?
Well, you want my take on it before you give me your thoughts?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Andrew Heaney is a no-brainer to me. You know, the classic rental. Mitch Keller, to me, doesn't get moved unless you specifically have a major league bat with 2 or 3 years of control that's pretty proven out and actually has some power that you have targeted and identified, and you find a good match. If you can get I'm starting to get cold on certain guys like Weiler Abreu because he's hurt a lot. You know what I mean? But that's the type of player I'm talking about. Somebody that has been in this league already, has started doing something, maybe is getting squeezed out, you know, on their team. They need pitching. This is a place where I could kind of swap money because that guy's going to cost money in arbitration too. You know what I mean? So you're almost making that okay. And then sure, if you want to take the 10-50 extra and throw it at Cruz, have at it. That's my thoughts on it, man. I'm not going to throw in the Charrington thing, but I do think this probably is better saved for the offseason because I think when teams are trying to build their teams out in the offseason, I think you have more guys that are in a mental space to part with something major league for something else major league than you do in season.
Yeah, and you're also talking about adding, you know, a contract that I think teams right now are a little bit more. There's a few teams that don't really care, but I think teams in general right now, there is some labor stuff coming up soon and money to be squabbled over, and I think teams will be paying attention to that maybe just a tiny bit more. So you might have to deal with that in the off season and see what that looks like. I think you listen. Obviously, we know that. My biggest thing with this poll was everybody. There's so many people that talk about on social media about like we need to do trades and we need to get bats and we need to do this, and it's like it always seems to be like, though, when push comes to shove, are you really willing to pay what it takes to get that? And like then a lot of people are always like, well, no, this guy's untouchable and I don't want to trade this guy and I'm not touching this guy. And it seems like people lose their nerve when the names start getting mentioned on who that might be. And I wanted to see how much that would hold true in this poll.
Yeah, and I think in many ways, you might have gotten closer to the truth without Heaney. And the only reason I say that is because I think most people think he's getting traded one way or another. And it was almost more like, yeah, could we trade one of those other two as well? Yeah, I think I almost would have preferred to see what they would think of just Keller or Falter. Because I bet that poll probably still goes Keller, but only because people that in general just watch baseball are still mentally married to that win-loss record. They're not looking beyond that. You know what I mean? Although Falter, I could argue, has been more effective this year than Keller. So just not as many innings.
Maybe the takeaway from this is how few people wanted to trade Bailey Falter.
Yeah.
The guy that we even threw some dirt on early on. And certainly after that first start he had last year against the Marlins when he got shelled, how quickly things changed. Nobody wants to move Bailey Falter now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean,
right? So maybe that's surprising too. I guess, yeah. And you know what? I was hoping people would take. I tried to focus on like, who would you trade? You know what I mean? Like,
and I think
sure,
you got a good reflection.
Yeah,
60%,
obvious one.
60% of people wanted to go with the obvious one, which makes total sense. They're not pushing the drastic button. They're basically saying Heaney, and I get that. I mean, I think Keller's interesting for a couple reasons. One, I think his numbers you can easily paint as very good, and I think most intelligent baseball people would, for real. I know how people feel here. But intelligent baseball people would see that as a good contract. So I can see him being worth some things. And he gets paid, but he doesn't get paid so much that you have to ask for less talent in return. I just think you could legitimately dangle him as somebody that could afford you maybe extending somebody else and or getting something else in return that needs extended.
That's what it comes down to with the Pirates, right? Is that money, and what can you do with it? And that's why I've always said Keller in this regard, simply because like I want to be able to use that for something else. If there's no more coming, I want to be able to use it somewhere else. Not that I don't like Mitch Keller, and I don't subscribe to this idea that he's a bum and he's paid way too much, because people around Pirate fans don't pay attention enough to around baseball and what it costs to have a Mitch Keller.
Yeah, I really I'm not advocating trading Mitch Keller because I think it's fun. I'm doing it because I think he's valuable. I think that getting his money off the books can afford you to do something else. When you signed him, I don't think that you thought what was coming was coming. Now you do. The difference is like, too, Mitch Keller is a fully fleshed out and realized player. And that could take a while for guys like Bubba. You know, we just saw him he couldn't even get out of the first inning yesterday. You know, that's exactly what I've been warning people about is in there. You got to be careful with this. It's not going to be a drop-in replacement like people are envisioning. So this should be handled with care.
Certainly this year, right? I mean, it's not like they're pushing for anything. You know, there's not some like they're in the hunt and they've been ravaged by injury and you feel like this pressure to get him up. I think he's shown that maybe there are a few little minor things that still need to be worked out. So another poll, right?
Let's do my poll question, because, you know, I'm pushing the envelope in some of the same ways, except maybe a little bit more specific about one trade, but I couldn't get it out of my head after I thought about it. Because Baltimore just sent Kirkstadt down, and you know, we've been talking about him for a long time. Big, easy power, hasn't worked at the majors yet. Also hasn't really gotten consistent opportunities because Baltimore has so many prospects that they just have had a hard time getting all of them a fair shake, really. I think that's kind of been a storyline that's been evolving. They also don't have pitching. So I just put it out there. Majinski for Kirkstadt straight up right now. Who says no? And tell me why. This surprised me that it was this drastic. 91.9% said do it.
Wow.
8.1% said hold up. So that I was like, whoa. I thought it'd be more like, I thought that'd be a pretty even split, right? And I got,
Yeah, that's really lopsided.
so I got from Voice from the Graves, stop the prospect hugging and make the deal. Neither is a finished product, offering similar value. Easy win-win for both the team and players. Got to break the ice somehow between these two teams. And Hoyt MC say, I wouldn't do it. Kirkstadt right now seems too much like Sawinski. I would try and swing a little bigger if it means out of the MLB rotation. I would try and pry Weiler Abreu from the Red Sox. Okay. I guess, Jim.
Well, you ain't bringing Carmen Majinski to that party.
It's only, well, you could as a part. I think
Well,
that's
yes.
I think that's the Red Sox are struggling for bullpen pitching and starting pitching. And this is a guy that has proven he can do both capably. And I think that's it's at least a Luis Ortiz level talent that you're looking to move, if not even a little bit more consistent than Luis Ortiz had been. So I think there's probably a little bit more value in Carmen Majinski than some of us are giving it credit for. But Kirkstadt, I thought basically they're just getting to the end of trying there, I would think. And change of
26.
scenery.
He's 26.
Yeah, change of scenery. Get him over here. See if you can do something with him. Baltimore surely needs pitching. That he would instantly be their best pitching prospect, even though he's not a prospect anymore. You know, they'd stick him right in their rotation. I guarantee he takes a spot today.
I'm looking right now at the Red Sox. Are two games under 500 in the AL East. They are 9 games back. I'm not sure what Baltimore being 12 games under 500. That sucks. Honestly, because I don't know how much they're interested in doing anything right now.
Well, they just called up Roman Anthony. The interest level is going to come from necessity. They have too many players.
I meant with Baltimore, just being that far out of it.
Baltimore's way more than 2 games under 500.
Yeah, they're like 12 under.
Yeah. But I think they should be interested because they have long-term goals. They don't think this is the end of the road for them this year. They're not going into a rebuild. But they're going to move guys like Mullins and Mountcastle and whatnot. And I'm saying like their team control has been eroded because they took too long to move them back when it would have been interesting. So now you got to go for the failed prospect or never got a chance prospect. And that's what I would shoot for if I'm going with Baltimore. And they got to pay because they screwed up just as bad as the Pirates did. So they got to pay the same way.
Yeah, they were the envy there for a hot minute, and it hasn't gone that well.
But they only built one side, just like the Pirates.
Yeah, Boston is 3 games out of a wild card spot. So plenty in it, even though that's a very tough division. Baltimore's 8.5 back in the wild card. So just short term, maybe Boston would be the better route to go, and maybe Baltimore, maybe off-season stuff. I don't know. I am more of the line in the line I'm thinking of with all this is I think that Pirates for once have to be a little bit aggressive and try to get some bats in here quicker.
And that's what I'm thinking. Like, while I think we can use Majinski in the bullpen, he clearly wants to start. And I don't think he's going to let go of that, even though he's up here and he's going to be in the bullpen and he'll do his job. I'm not questioning that. But he's got that bug, and he's shown he can do it, and he's relatively stretched out. I say give the kid a chance to have what he wants and trade him, because he's probably got a decent amount of ceiling that everyone knows is still there. Pirates are just going to squeeze him out.
This is when we need one of these trade value guys to come on here. These that we know that can tell me, because I want to know what those numbers look like with Mlodzinski. I want to see where he'd be valued at.
I wish there was one of those sites that I actually trusted. I just don't. So
And I know, but it just gives you a baseline. That's all. I try to just at least get something.
yeah, I guess I always make it really more human. I look at the team situations. I look at the value that those players should have to those teams in particular. And then I basically say, can that be a deal? That's my starting point. Mlodzinski for Kjerstad. Do I think that would be enough to get Kjerstad? I heard somebody in my comments here tell me the Baltimore would say no because Kjerstad is way better. Really? Mlodzinski is far more established in the major leagues than Kjerstad is. Far more. He's going to be a major league pitcher. Period. Kjerstad, is he going to be a major league player? I don't know. I sure hope so. Obviously, I'm suggesting trading for him, but I think there's a lot more doubt on that side of the equation than the Mlodzinski side.
No, I agree with that. I think that so far, Kjerstad, or however you say it looks like that has derailed a bit to the point where now you're not so sure.
Yeah. I mean, and it could just as easily be another one of their prospect types like that. Kobe Mayo, I don't care. Pick somebody along those lines. If they're willing to let one of them go, I'd move somebody like that. And Carmen Mlodzinski would be my foot in the door to get the conversation going. If I've got to go up from there, I go up from there. But that's not where I'd like to go up from. And I certainly wouldn't pay a lot more than Mlodzinski for Kjerstad.
No. Now, if you're talking about guys like Mayo, I think obviously that those names need to get a lot sexier to get somebody like that. And that's all I was interested in seeing is I think some fans don't have the stomach to dangle some of the names that you would need to from the Pirates to get those guys. They talk a good game, but when push comes to shove, can you really pull the trigger on some of that stuff?
I mean, I don't think the Pirates have a lot of real, honest to God, magnets from major league talent coming back. That's why I go to Keller, Falter, and Mlodzinski. I think those are guys that could get you major league talent back.
And that's why I wasn't so thrilled with Heaney trading him, because I think I know what that gets you.
I mean, I'm trading him one way or another. I don't care.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, like, who you get. I think, like, could you get somebody that maybe has some promise? Yeah, but I don't think, like, I mean, look what they got for Quintana.
Yeah, Oviedo and Nunez.
Yes. So guys that have some promise.
But they had to throw in Stratton, too. So
good point.
I mean, but there's a package there is the point. You have to give to get. If you're going to try to get major league talent in return for a rental, I would tell you that you didn't even bring the right currency to start shopping. You know, you have to give prospects for major league talent, or you have to give major league talent for major league talent. And if you're trying to get major league talent of equal talent to what you're shipping, well, then it better have similar amount of time left of team control. You've got to do like that kind of basic math. That's all. Like when you're trying to find these partnerships, we talk about like going out and get these major league bats. It'd be so easy. They got all this. It'd be so easy. I gotta tell you, if I am a little queasy about Bubba, other teams are too. Especially these teams that you think are just going to toss them right in. Like we talk about Baltimore, to go ahead and give Bubba. I think somebody suggested Bubba for Holiday or something. First, they wouldn't do it, and we wouldn't do it. They're not ready to give up on Holiday. You know, I mean, if they were ready to give up on Holiday, I'm going to go ahead and guess the baseball world is not ready to name his brother the number 1 pick again this year. You know, I mean, there's something in the family genes that they would have discovered if Jackson's not going to make it. Point is, though, if you want that kind of talent, you've got to give that kind of talent. And Jackson, one way or another, has roughly a year of Major League Baseball under his belt. And you can probably argue that he is a Major League talent. He is playing Major League Baseball already. And you can't do that with Bubba. And you can't sell him to a team that desperately needs pitching right the F now as an answer for right the F now, because he's not even an answer for your team right the F now.
Yeah, they're going to hold that against you to an extent.
Yeah. That
meaning
maybe,
the other team
that maybe speaks for why it might be a good idea to get him to debut. That said, if he doesn't do well, then it speaks for you screwed up because you were better holding up a mystery box than you were showing them what was behind the curtain before you asked them to pick. You know?
And like we always talk about is like, it's so hard to find these matches, right?
Yeah.
You know, great. You want Major League bats. Well, the team you want to trade pitching to that needs pitching, they're looking for pitching because Boston's still trying to compete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't take something off their Major League roster that is also pivotal and integral to their success.
Right.
So how do you do that?
Right.
And that maybe is why the off season does work out better in that regard.
Because then, you know, they're looking at all of their pieces and how they performed over the season, and they're going, okay, Roman Anthony, yeah, that's an answer for sure. And we got to figure out what we're going to do with Marcelo Mayer because Trevor Story's hitting. And where are we going to put these guys? And we got this Hamilton dude just hanging out. And Duran is like starting to get expensive. And I think that's how you come to the decision of which one you're not going to try to keep. That's your currency. And you go out there and you offer something like Duran for Keller. You know what I mean? And maybe you make them throw something in because he doesn't have as much control and he's certainly not as entrenched. And
well, it's, you know, it's kind of how a Priest or Nick York deal gets done, right?
Yeah.
You know, just the sense of they were both guys that had some ability and clearly were decent prospects, surplus guys that the teams decided on each side, we can move these guys. So, but that's few and far between.
I totally agree. We should probably get out of here, Jim, and go watch the Pirates continue to make Jamison Tyon look like Cy Young.
I haven't purposely paid attention, but I'm assuming they're losing.
Yeah, just 2-0, and it's early yet, but still. Anyways, good show.
Hey, those are some good topics. I am going to go look and see about the numbers in Major League Baseball this year across the board. I want to see where runs are per game, home runs, and all that stuff. Let's see if Kutch is chasing an imaginary rabbit here.
I love it. I love it. You do some homework. We'll reconvene next week. And that's all I got. Let's go Bucks. And thanks for joining us, everybody. Look at how close we're getting to 200 episodes, by the way. 197 this week.
Wow.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
We're doing it.
All right. Take it away, Ben.
See you guys.
Let's go Bucks!
Yeah, buddy.